Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about observation of the ankle joint. Myself Dr. Sneha Bhatia, MPT in Orthopedics and Sports Rehabilitation, in charge principal at least Srimati S. G. Patel Institute of Physiotherapy. So observation of the foot is extensive because of the stresses the foot is subjected to is high. So we have to compare both the weight bearing, that is the closed chain, with the non weight bearing, that is the open chain posture of the foot. Weight bearing stance of the foot shows how the body compensates for structural abnormalities, and non weight bearing posture shows functional and structural abilities without compensation. So observe the ankle from the front, from the side, and from the behind. So this is the picture showing the closed chain, weight bearing, supination of the subtalar joint. Supination of the subtalar joint in the weight bearing foot results in motion of both the calcaneus and talus. The calcaneus moves in the frontal plane and the talus moves in the transverse and sagittal plane. The calcaneus inverts and the talus simultaneously abducts and dorsiflexes relative to the calcaneus. The leg follows the motion of the talus in the transverse plane and laterally rotates. The leg also follows the sagittal plane motion of the talus to some degree. The dorsiflexion motion of the talus on the calcaneus therefore tends to impart a slight extension motion to the knee joint. In picture B, we can see the closed chain weight bearing pronation of the subtalar joint. Pronation of the subtalar joint in the weight bearing foot results in eversion of the calcaneus. The talus adducts in plantar flexus relative to the calcaneus. The leg follows the talus in a transverse plane and medially rotates. In sagittal plane, the leg moves to some extent with the talus. As the talus plantar flexes, the proximal aspect of the tibia moves forward to flex the knee joint. So in this picture we can see in picture A, open chain non-weight bearing supination of the subtalar joint. When the non-weight bearing foot is moved at the subtalar joint in the direction of supination, the talus is stable and the calcaneus and foot move around the talus. The calcaneus and the foot invert, plantar flex and adduct. These positional changes associated with subtalar joint supination are readily visible when compared with the pronated position of the subtalar joint. In picture B, we can see the open chain non-weight bearing pronation of the subtalar joint. When the subtalar joint is moved into a pronated position in the non-weight bearing foot, the foot abducts, everts and dorsiflexes around the stable talus. The positional variances can be best appreciated by comparing this illustration with the supinated position of the subtalar joint. So weight bearing position, anterior view, the patient should be in the standing position. We have to see for hip and trunk rotation. If there is lateral rotation of the trunk and hip, then it can indicate elevation of the medial longitudinal arch of the foot. If there is medial rotation, it can indicate flattened arches. If there is medial rotation of the hip joint, it can indicate pigeon toes. Anteriorly, we have to also check for the tibia shape and deformity. So supination of the foot involves inversion of the heel, adduction of the forefoot and plantar flexion at the subtalar joint and mid-tarsal joint so that the medial longitudinal arch is accentuated. Pronation of the foot involves eversion of the heel, abduction of the forefoot, medial rotation of the leg in relation to the foot and dorsiflexion of the subtalar and the mid-tarsal joint. So this is the picture showing supination and pronation of the foot in non-weight bearing position. So picture A is showing supination and picture B is showing pronation. Fick angle, the examiner should note how the patient stands and walks. Normally in standing, 50% to 60% of the weight is taken on the heel and 40% to 50% is taken by the metatarsal head. The foot assumes a slight toe out position. So this angle, the Fick angle, is approximately 12 degree to 18 degree from the sagittal axis of the body, and it is in developing from 5 degree in the children. So this Fick angle in children is around 5 degree and in adult it can be 12 degree to 18 degree. So this is the picture showing the Fick angle. Any prominent bumps or exostosis should be noted, as should any splaying or widening of the forefoot. So we have to also check any splaying of the forefoot and metatarsus primus varus is present or not. There are 3 types of forefoot based on the length of the metatarsal bones. So the 3 types are index plus type, index plus minus type, and index minus type. In the index plus type of forefoot, the first metatarsal head will be greater than the second will be greater than the third, and the length of the third metatarsal will be greater than the fourth, and the metatarsal head of the fourth number will have greater length compared to the fifth. In index plus minus type of deformity, the first and the second metatarsal head will be almost equal in length, progressively followed by third, fourth, and fifth. In index minus type of forefoot, the second metatarsal head will be greater than the first and the third. So let us see the picture. So according to the metatarsal classification, the first picture is showing the index plus type of forefoot. The second picture is showing the index minus type of forefoot, and the third picture is showing the index plus and minus type of forefoot. Weight bearing position. In posterior view, we have to check for the bulk of the calf muscle and note any differences. Achilles tendons on each side should be compared. Calcaneus for any normality of shape and position. So if there is any abnormality in the calcaneus, that can be visible from the posterior aspect. So in this picture, normal and deviated Achilles tendon is shown. The deviation is often seen with pes planus, that is flat foot, and when the medial longitudinal arch is lower or has dropped. So in the first picture we can see the normal Achilles tendon, the straight line indicates it is normal, and in the second picture we can see there is some deviation because of the pronation of the foot. So weight bearing position, lateral view, we have to see longitudinal arches of the foot. Examiner should note whether the medial arch is higher than the lateral arch. So this is the picture showing the arches of the foot. We can see the longitudinal arch. It is composed of hindfoot, midfoot, and forefoot. So in the picture 13.15, lateral and medial views of the feet showing the longitudinal arches is seen. So we have to assess the arches of the foot on observation. If there is any abnormality in arches of the foot, then we have to make a note on it. Components of talipes equinovarus. So on observation, if we see any kind of deformity, then the examiner should keep that in mind. So supination, adduction, equinus, cavus, claw-toes, adduction of the forefoot. If any of this deformity is visible on observation, then we have to take that into consideration for the diagnosis. Non-weight bearing position, we have to look for the callosities, the scars, sinuses, pressure sores, clubfoot deformities, equinus deformity, pes planus, and pes cavus. So shoes, examiner observe at the patient's shoes both inside and outside for weight bearing and wear patterns. If the shoes are too narrow or too small, it can cause deformities. If the shoes are worn out, then it will offer only little support. If stiff shoes are there, then it will limit the movements of the joint. If the patient is wearing high heels, then the high heels can cause the following problems. It can induce knee pain, contracture of calf muscles, increased stress on patella, back pain, ankle sprains, balance issues, hallux valgus, bunions, march fracture, patellofemoral syndrome, and gait abnormalities. So this is the picture showing misshapen shoes caused by severely pronated feet. So we have to, the examiner should also look for the shoes, and if there is any obvious deformity that is visible, then that will help us in the diagnosis. So for today's video, I have taken the content from the book Orthopedic Physical Assessment, David Magee. Thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please subscribe my channel and share it with your friends, and press the bell icon to get notified for the next video.